And the highlight of the show to me had to be the incredible history lesson video package for Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega's rivalry. That was one of the best pieces of business AEW has ever put together. That led to an in-ring confrontation, a contract signing between Okada and Omega, where Tony Schiavone announced that the winner at All In Texas will be crowned the inaugural AEW Unified Champion, introducing a brand new title. Both men signed and shook hands until Don Callis came out to interrupt. Omega said he knew every trick in Callis's book, but didn't see Okada attacking Omega from behind with the Intercontinental title to align with Callis. Don then gave Okada a police baton, who he attacked the rib cage, the diverticulitis of Kenny Omega, and knocked him out with it. He delivered a flying elbow drop right to the ribs, and then a second one to Omega while he was on a stretcher, which caused Kenny to start spitting out a ridiculous amount of blood in a superb angle to hype up this big time bout at All In Texas on July 12th. But we do have a super chat donation from our good brother Chuck Berries. Thank you so much, Chuck Berries, for the support. He says, being a late arrival to the New Japan dinner table, I appreciated the Omega versus Okada video package showing the history between these two warriors. Been missing out on New Japan all this time. Another reminder, we're over at patreon.com/Trio Heat rewatching the Okada versus Omega series. Me and Jimmy, when he first watched it a couple of years ago, he was like, oh, that was like 4 3/4 stars. Then we rewatched it this week and he was like, that's one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Like he appreciated more because we were like pausing and going back on certain stuff, like missile drop kicks to the top of the head, Kenny doing like a full-on moonsault over the barricade to the floor from the ring. Like there was just so many great moments in that matchup. And the thing that I caught the most from that first matchup is that Okada figured out a different way to counter the One Ring Angel in so many different ways in that matchup. And the whole story of the match is that Kenny can't hit his move to get the win on Okada. I love that as a simple story to follow throughout an incredible 45-minute matchup that never felt like 45 minutes at all.
Yeah, because to your point, when it came to that match, that was the biggest thing that came out of the match. They were like, "Oh, Kenny never did his finisher. Like he never hit the move once." And we got what we got.
Yeah, great stuff. But yes, thank you for the super chat donation, Chuck Berries. And yes, I agree with Dre here. He says, I mean, if it's a 4-hour show, you better go out there and give a 30-minute match. My boy Swerve and Ospreay ain't no joke. Yeah, that was I think right behind Ospreay and Takeshita. That was the best, in my opinion, the best TV match of the year so far. But the question coming out of Summer Blockbuster and this week is, should Okada and Omega headline All In Texas? Because there's been a big ticket movement this week following the announcement of Okada versus Omega at All In Texas. WrestleTix had updated ticket numbers for the Globe Life Field Arena, Globe Life Field event coming up. They are currently at 17,485 tickets out, which is an increase of 1,406 since last week. The current setup holds 2,983. I think they've even updated that to about 21,000 tickets, and they are 3,498, so about 3,500 away from hitting over the 20,000 mark. The Wrestling Observer newsletter notes that if the event can get to 2,177 tickets sold, it will be the third largest attendance in AEW history, and its largest in the North America. It is the third largest gate in AEW history and the company's largest gate in North America. With this ticket sale movement since the announcement of this matchup, I'm going to ask you first. I'll go with JJ. Should Okada Omega headline All In Texas over Moxley versus Hangman and Mercedes versus Timeless Toni?
Without question. Without question. Without hesitation. This is arguably the greatest series of matches in a rivalry in wrestling history. And you got it. You got it on American soil. Yes, without question, this should headline the show. Especially for TV sakes, if the championship for AEW is still going to be in a motherfucking briefcase. But for wrestling aesthetics, yes, this should close out the show. Because this will have a better finish, better match, better action, better story than either of those two matches combined.
Hey, that's a strong argument. I think you can't go wrong any which way with a lot of these options, but I mean Okada Omega, the fact that it's moved this many tickets, I think that makes it a stronger argument for them. It also should be noted that right now the plan is for the Rainmaker One Wing Angel side plates on the AEW Unified Championship to be permanent on the title to commemorate the two championships and their legacy that Okada and Omega brought into the unification matchup. And Fightful Select reported that this title will be viewed as another top championship for the promotion, not a mid-card or upper mid-card championship. So, Josh, I'll ask you, should Okada Omega headline All In Texas?
It's a tough. It's a lot tougher than I thought it would be to answer that. I think you headline it if the option is Mox wins the AEW title, he retains the title. I think this is the route you go, just because again you want the crowd to go home happy. So if you go with this match, either person winning, I think you're having a crowd go home happy. But if the actual move is Hangman winning the title, I think you still make that the main event. But this is it's a really good argument, just because of the tickets that moved. I didn't know it was gonna move that much. I was kind of shocked. And realistically, they said a week. It was like 5 or 6 days that those many tickets moved. So it doesn't calculate for from Wednesday to now. So who knows? Like more tickets moved already. But the fact that many moved in that that short amount of time, that's big time, because usually with AEW, when the tickets move that much, it's usually the week of the show, like the pay-per-view. That's where you get 2,000, you get 2,500 tickets moved. So the fact that you got close to 1,500 within less than a week, I think it's a good sign for the overall show, because I think this is what they were kind of waiting for. They were kind of waiting for that big jump. This is by far the biggest jump they've gotten, and I think that there's a momentum that they got to keep going. It'll definitely be past 20K, no doubt. If they get 30,000 in that building, I think that's a success. It's a good sign, but again, when it comes to the argument, when it comes to the debate, I think you go with this match. If you're determined to keep Mox as champion, you make this the main event. The other way around, if Hangman wins, I think the AEW World Championship should be the main event.
Dog, and I was going to add this. My top argument with this whole ordeal is this match is one of those matches. This is not AEW, with all due respect, is not New Japan Pro Wrestling. This match will be unfollowable. You cannot follow this match. Anyone that follows this match, it will go downhill. You can't follow this match.
It would be ridiculously tough to follow this matchup. I think if I'm the booker, if you're planning on the Hangman Moxley matchup to be this Avengers Endgame-esque thing of Will and Swerve come down to make the save for the Death Riders, and then the Bucks come out to help Moxley, and then you have the music of Eddie Kingston hits, and Darby Allin hits, and Bryan Danielson hits, and then Sting comes out to make another thing. If it's something like that, yeah, that got a headline.
This
got a
nigga wants some
headline.
WrestleMania 40 shit to happen.
Yo, I want them to go ham. The AEW Avengers has been a talk among the fan base for weeks now. That's what they're building it for, and that's why I love how interwoven all these stories are going into All In Texas. That has the main event. I do agree with JJ that it's unfollowable to the fact that if you are not going to put it in the main event, it can't open the show because that could kill the crowd, it opening the show, but it has to be right smack dab in the middle of the show. Smack dab in the middle where there's at least like 2 matches before the main event. At the very least, 2 matches has to be between Okada and Omega and what you're going to have be the headline. At this point, the way they booked it, unfortunately, I don't see Mercedes and Toni having a shot because I think it is an argument of Okada and Omega versus Hangman and Moxley. So depending on what you have planned, if Hangman's winning with this Avengers Endgame type ending, then that's the main event. If I agree with what Josh said, if it's Moxley's retaining, then definitely Okada and Omega has to headline.
Yeah,
I think they are. They gotta overbook this Moxley and Hangman. Moxley's been getting help from everybody and their mama for title matches for months now. This is the biggest show of the year. You have to overbook it with run-ins then.